good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve your skill-based matchmaking. Finally, we can sink our teeth into the newly acquired Jungle Fire update for the Enlisted game. This update brings along a brand new map which was much needed, if I do say so myself. Not only that, we can sink our teeth into a lot of quality of life improvements as well, ranging from graphical to audio to even getting some new campaign levels to grind out as well while we wait for a new campaign. It's a lot to cover in this update, if I'm being quite frank with you, so rather than go over it in a 20-minute format, I'd rather give it to you in the highlight format, which is what most people prefer anyway. So let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? At first, a large portion of this update was going to be me complaining about how laggy it was, but to my and many other people's surprise, they fixed that within a day. So if you were experiencing any lag, I know I most certainly was, and it will be kind of apparent in some of the gameplay because I was recording from day one. Don't worry, again, that has been fixed, and not only that, they have provided you with compensation as well, which I will flash up on the screen. Basically just some extra XP for the time that you missed and you were not able to play properly, which is honestly some of the best customer service that I have ever seen. And not only that, mind you, this game is free. You know how many games you have to pay for and wait forever to get your game updated or fixed, and then they never give you anything for your grievances or your time that you missed playing the game. So this is just like, honestly, like bar none, like some of the best customer service I've ever seen from a gaming company. And they're not even American, which seems to be a reoccurring theme, mind you, but neither here nor there. Let's move on. As far as weaponry and soldier updates, highlights include the newly introduced ability to customize your Tunisian campaign soldiers, excluding the premium squad soldiers, of course. In Berlin, Russians now get access to the AS-44 with the bayonet attached as a new unlock. Moving over to the Pacific, the US gets the M1 Thompson to become even deadlier at close range than they were previous to. Japan, on the other hand, gets access to the Type 100 late, and personally, I already think very highly of their submachine guns, so I'm pretty sure this will also be a very accurate addition to their arsenal, but with an even better fire rate, because I don't imagine them doing anything else to make their submachine guns even better later in the progression tree. But neither here nor there, Japan should be a little better at close range as well, so I consider this to be a pretty even trade-off. The Johnson rifle got a buff as well, moving that reload speed from 4.3 to 3.4 seconds. Phosphorus grenades will no longer leak through closed doors, and there have been various major improvements to reload animations. Yo, a little pro tip by the way, they did actually like slick buff the M2 carbine to be an even more superior weapon than it was already by stabilizing the iron sights when you aim down sight, thus making it even smoother on the recoil front. And again, I don't know why they did this because the gun was already like one of the best guns in the game, but now that is even compounded more so by again smoothing out that recoil. So I mean, if you like to play the Americans in the Pacific campaign, I'm sure you will now have a blast even more so than you were before. I do want to take a second and shout out the Enlisted developers for taking the time to put a substantial amount of work into redesigning their sound system. Not only does the environment sound a lot better, but you will notice that they redesigned the weapon sounds for a lot of the guns in this game as well. The biggest change in my personal opinion is that the material of the building that you are now inside will affect the reverberations, or for lack of better words, the echo whenever you do shoot your gun. If you are in a wooden building, for example, it's going to sound way more shallow in comparison if you shot a gun in a concrete bunker, for lack of better words, and I think that is a fantastic change for the immersion. Pun intended, we're going to switch gears here and take a look at the vehicles now. Periscopes have been added to most tanks, greatly improving the visibility and information gathering ability of any commanders who seek to do so. When it comes to repairing tanks now, unfortunately you now have to get out of the tank and go exactly to where that damage has taken place and repair it at the site where that shell hit. Unfortunately, this does make taking any damage on your tank way more crucial than it was before, but conversely it is more realistic, and of course it makes it more risky to try and repair your tank in the first place. airplanes now have drop tanks, or essentially they have napalm. I've been killed by it one time so far, and in my opinion, I don't think the radius is as large as it ought to be, but I'm going to be quiet and shut up before I say something that I regret in the future. New tanks in the Berlin campaign have just dropped as well. You now get your hands on the IS-2 1944 version if you are the Russians, and then you get your hands on the Tiger II-H version if you are the Germans. In my personal opinion, all the late stage progression tanks in the Berlin campaign are composed of a bunch of one-hit KOs from another tank that is watching a very narrow street just waiting for a new tank to spawn and go down, or conversely it's a bunch of ricochets as well. Either way, what I've noticed is that not really much is going to change there, even with these new tanks being added, I imagine. Keeping on with the tank updates, many of the armor values for these guys have been corrected, but what you guys should know about that and in relation to it is that it will now be harder to kill tanks with rockets if you are flying a plane, unless you are being super precise with your shots and you are coming in at a good angle as well. And what I mean by that is that you want to shoot them from a more vertical angle, whereas before you could take a more flat angle and still blow them up pretty easily. Surprisingly, we are getting some updates to the locomotion of this game as well, and when it comes to the movement in Enlisted, one of the biggest complaints that I know of is how jank some of the climbing is in this game. Like, if I could put it into an analogy, on one hand these guys have the scaling ability of a motherfucking like Geodude or something out of Pokemon, but when it comes to like getting to the top of a ladder or grabbing a ladder out of the water for an example, they treat the ladder like Superman treats kryptonite, which makes no sense to me and is very baffling. But neither here nor there, they have made some improvements to the climbing in this game, and I have noticed that. Give it a try and let me know what you guys think as well down in the comment section. When it comes to the new map, we have 3 new locations on it so far. We got New Georgia, we got Moon to Point, and we got Moon to Trail. Of course, I will be posting gameplays from all 3 of these, so do stay tuned for that in the future. Moving over to the Moscow, we have Blvckguy Settlement. The game mode that we are getting introduced to for this mission in particular is going to be Destruction. For Normandy in particular, we are getting La Perelle Village South, and that game mode is going to be Invasion. For Berlin, we are getting Ministry Garden, and that game mode is going to be Destruction. And for Tunisia, we are getting Blvckguy Village West. I don't know why they keep trying to introduce that map considering how disliked it is, but I mean, can't complain, right? In the same vein to the audio updates that I talked about earlier, they have made a plethora of small changes to the visuals of this game as well. Nothing that is like super crazy, like it's not like we're on Unreal Engine 5, but they have made the game, basically look better and easier on the eyes. The biggest example of this is that they have improved the adaptation of the soldiers' eyes from bright light sources in dark environments. This is very noticeable in my personal opinion, and you can see examples of it in the gameplay, so that'll be easier for you to see enemies when you're looking outside of a building. Always a lovely change to see on the horizon. We are getting some updates to our AI soldiers as well, one of the biggest components of the game. They will now be able to react faster to targets behind their backs and on their flanks, so basically they won't be as oblivious. They will now also keep their distance when running in a line, so they won't get marked by grenades as often. Not only that, they will now be less afraid to peek out from behind cover and actually shoot back at the enemy. That is very nice as well. I usually leave my AI in the back, but whenever they are nearby, I guess they'll do more stuff. Not only that, they will also try to take better cover from the enemies and place enemy markers, and they will try to avoid grouping together behind the same cover as well, again making it easier or harder for those grenades to get those multi-kills. They do have a section at the bottom for other improvements, but I will let you guys sift through that at your leisure by linking the article in the description, of course. But what you should know from this section is that they fixed the bugs that caused the explosive packs to fall through the ground, which this happened to me on multiple occasions and was super annoying. So I'm glad that I finally figured out what was going on there, and I'm glad they finally got that fixed, because I would throw a perfect bomb right under a tank and nothing would happen, and I would be just sit there looking dumbfounded, so that was very annoying. But wait, there's more. not only are we getting an amazing update, they are supplementing that and giving us even more reason to play by adding a new event to grind as well, beginning on September 5th and going all the way through October 1st. How this one is going to work in particular is that you will have 2 days to earn 20,000 battle points. And it may sound kind of confusing, but essentially all it means is that from the time you start a game, you will have 2 days to earn 20,000 points, which in my personal opinion is pretty easy because you can get like 10,000 in like 2 games, if not 1 if you're a decent player. The main rewards are going to be 2 planes, and we are also going to get some anti-aircraft capability as well. But let me talk about the planes first. Both of these are going to be in the Pacific campaign. For the Americans, we are getting the FP3 fighter. It's going to have 2 100-pound bombs, going to have 2 HVAR rockets on each wing, and it's going to have an astounding 6 12.7mm machine guns at 2,400 rounds. Not only that, it's going to have some napalm for you to drop as well. The Japanese counterpart of this will also have some napalm. We're going to be getting the Zero if you are playing as the Japanese. This one will have 2 powerful 20mm cannons, and it's going to have 2 machine guns. It's going to come with 2 60-kilogram bombs, and of course, like I said, it's going to have that napalm. What really surprised me about this event is that we are getting our hands on the Blvckguy, or the Blvckguy is what I thought it was called. This was seen in Battlefield 5 and basically is a handheld anti-aircraft rocket launcher used by the Germans near the end of World War II. Rarely is this ever added in games, so again, I am very shocked to see Enlisted developers thinking of everything that they can add to appease us. Funny enough, in the little blurb, they say this will be very effective against infantry, and I plan on using it that way because I don't really see planes that often in Berlin, but whenever I do, hopefully I have one of these on my back, and I can get some, maybe I'll make some YouTube shorts shooting some planes down with it, and then we'll take it from there. But either way, this is like one of the neatest additions that I have ever seen in an event, and I am very impressed with how they have been handling this game so far. Hopefully things only get better from here, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a good one. Blvckguy out, and enjoy the gameplay.